Okay, we've got some very cool stuff to talk about today. The first thing we're going to discuss is Tim Pool and his plan to sue the Kamala Harris campaign for defamation. We've got that and a whole lot more. You came to the right place. Okay, welcome back, all you wonderful people. If this is your first time here, welcome aboard. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave comments below. We're on X, Locals, Rumble, and YouTube. And then I want to make sure that you are sharing this video. That helps us get outside of that pesky algorithm that does not like people presenting conservative perspectives, which is it's right here. Conservative perspectives, the algorithm does not like it. So Tim Pool, this is a fascinating article. Tim Pool says that he's going to announce legal action against the presidential campaign of Kamala Harris. Her campaign account on X, Kamala HQ, posted an out-of-context clip and then claimed that Tim Pool was calling for the death penalty against Democrats should Trump gain a second term in office. And this is the actual post that they put up. Trump operatives say their Project 2025 plan is to give Trump total, unchecked legal power so they can jail and execute those who don't support Trump if he wins. They have since scrubbed this video from YouTube. Now, the video itself is Tim. It was taken entirely out of context. It was part of a larger conversation, and but they equate him to Project 2025. Well, Tim Pool had a retort, which we are going to listen to because I think it's important to hear it straight from him, exactly how he presented it to the people. Let's listen to his response.
This morning, I am announcing that I have engaged legal counsel. We are preparing a lawsuit against the Kamala Harris campaign due to a defamatory statement posted on X, which is extreme, egregious, and I just got to say outright psychotic in accusing me personally, as well as Laura Loomer, but we are two separate individuals, of calling for unchecked legal power so that they, meaning Trump and his allies, can jail and execute anyone who doesn't support Trump if he wins, which is a shocking and egregious lie that goes so far beyond the pale. I just can't even. It's shocking and downright insane. This, of course, this tweet came over the weekend, Labor Day. Immediately, I contacted my legal team and furious. My family is furious. The tweet in question refers to me as a Trump operative. I do not work for the Trump campaign. I've never received any money from the Trump campaign or Trump PACs. We have received no outside investment for this show, for anything related to Timcast Media Group. We received no outside investment. It's all been funded from the ground up from the start of my original podcast, youtube.com/Timcast, as well as my personal savings. The tweet goes on to say that I have a Project 2025 plan. I am in no way associated with Project 2025, though I've interviewed some of the people who are associated with Project 2025 and have been involved. Timcast is not, has not, and will not be a part of or in any way related to Project 2025. Nor have I ever called for anyone to have unchecked legal authority. And I will stress this because this is the most shockingly offensive part of what they said. And I'm jumping right to it right away so I don't waste your time because I have a lot to talk about. I am opposed to the death penalty in all circumstances. I have argued against the death penalty in every circumstance. I do not trust the government to decide who gets to live and die, and I will never support the death penalty or any type of executions. For that matter, the clip in question posted by the Kamala campaign was literally me arguing against the idea of the death penalty, telling Laura Loomer that she was wrong. These individuals did not commit treason, more likely sedition, but there is a lot to break down in exactly what this post is. And so I just wanted to make sure I started immediately by addressing what we are doing. So I will stress one more time. I have engaged legal counsel. There's only so much you can do over Labor Day weekend. Had it been during the week, we would have probably filed in the immediate, but hopefully by today, I can give you an update.
So here you go. Tim Pool, he's a guy, I mean, he has unequivocally spoken out against the death penalty. He is not a death penalty guy, and so it was a complete mischaracterization. And the way that this was posted, I can't remember if I've already showed this or not, but I'm going to show it again just in case. that they've equated him to Project 2025, saying that he wants to execute political opposition. And, I personally, I'm softening a bit on the death penalty for similar reasons. The federal government is having the power over life and death is a troubling thing. And especially since things have become more polarized and more militant towards one side of the political spectrum, do I think that after what's happened to Trump and what's happened to the January 6th folks and all of that we couldn't find ourselves in a position where, we are being accused of treason, we being conservatives are being accused of treason, and the death penalty is leveraged in an unfair way? Yes, I believe we could find ourselves in those circumstances. And so the federal government having that authority, especially when it's a politically swayed federal government, I think is becoming a dangerous thing. And our system is already, the legal system, the judicial system, it's already horribly bloated and it's horribly corrupt. And the risk of innocent people being killed by their government is something that has already happened, but it will continue to happen. And I still believe that there's a place for it, but the burden of proof has to be so astronomically high, and it's supposed to be astronomically high now, but because of a lot of those corruptions in the system, we have executed innocent people. And, the spreading of false information, we're going back to the Tim Pool thing. The spreading of false information is obviously nothing new. If you've been watching politics for the past 16 years, if you can believe it, it has been horribly, horribly corrupt. And people like Brian Stelter are playing right into that. Brian Stelter is one of the public enemy number ones when it comes to misinformation, disinformation, media who is pitching themselves. His show was called Reliable Sources, but it was anything but reliable sources. It was nothing more than a mouthpiece for the Democrat Party. And so he's making his return now to CNN because he's been out there for 2 years. Nobody else would hire him. And there you go. So this is kind of the end result of 2 years of trying to get on. I'm sure he was trying to get on other networks, and they say, look, bro, you're unhireable. You are unhireable because after the kingmaker and the king breaker, Tucker Carlson, calling you a eunuch for 5 years, people are like, look, man, you are ratings poisoned. And so he's come back as an email to subscribers of that. Let's see, excuse me. Brian Stelter is making a return to CNN and his Reliable Sources newsletter. An email to subscribers of that newsletter revealed that Stelter will be coming back to helm the publication on September 9th, just 1 day before the first and perhaps only presidential debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump. But this is not going to be a Back to the Future remake, Stelter told readers. The media industry has matured. Yeah, right. CNN has evolved. No, it hasn't. And I have changed a lot since I signed off 2 years ago. No, you have not. I loved my old life and as the anchor of a Sunday morning show, but to borrow some lingo from my video game blogger days, I finished that level of the game. Time for a new challenge. So he founded this program, Reliable Sources, in 2015, but it was canceled in 2022 because he was doing it's the death blow. CNN's own, rot from within. And they've said, oh, we're revamping things. We're changing things. We're going to be more, less biased. And we're going to go back to being the most trusted name in news. Have they done that? Absolutely not. They haven't done anything to change their, to change their reputation. Absolutely nothing. They're still attacking this guy. Oh, he's still public enemy. They can't resist it. They can't help themselves. They can't help themselves. They hate him so much. All these news anchors, this is a dangerous thing, by the way. All these news anchors who are out here talking to average Americans, people that are infected with TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, trying to spread news, and I'm going to make these as the strongest air quotes possible, the news with Trump derangement syndrome are giving a skewed version of reality to the American people. And here's Trump. He's saying, you know what? I don't even give a crap about the mainstream media. He was on Lex Friedman. He's been on I think the Nelk Boys. He's been on with Jake Paul, or I forget the Paul brothers. I don't watch their podcast. The Impulsive podcast. He's been on. He's going to all the non-standard media outlets, to these guys that have millions and millions of young voters. And I think this is in the video that it's actually the video that I don't know when I'm going to post this one. So let's just say the video I posted where I talk about men shifting to the right, young men shifting to the right, 18 to 29 are all moving towards the right. Women are moving in the opposite direction, but the men are moving to the right. I think that his engagement in these non-traditional platforms is where that is taking place. I truly believe that. These young men are looking for male role models. They're looking for strength, and they don't find it. You can't find it on the left. You can't find it on the left. These are beta males, childish men, submissive men. They are not leaders. And young men, just by their very genetics, want to have a leader around them. Somebody who commands the situation. And Donald Trump does that. Kamala Harris does not. Tim Walz does not. Tim Walz pretends to be a leader, lies about his leadership, but he is not a leader. And here's an interesting article. This is from SCNR. Trump calls for religious revival in America. This was done during the, wouldn't say he was calling for a religious revival. However, he was on the Lex Friedman podcast, and got last I looked, it was at like 3 million views. It's really wild. He's breaking all the records in the books. Nothing as big as what he did with Elon, but former President Donald Trump said a religious revival was necessary in the United States. It's not exactly what he said, but Trump made his remarks during his Tuesday interview with podcaster Lex Friedman. During the interview, the former president referenced a personal friend who is an octogenarian, goodness gracious, and their use of dark humor when discussing their mortality. Golly, if I could read. Trump went on to say he believed those holding religious faith had a better feeling towards death. They were asking him, Lex was asking him if, do you think about death? Is that something that weighs on your mind? And he referenced a friend that he had who thinks about it every minute of every day. And this is a guy who's in his 80s. And Trump said, no, he said, you're here, you're alive on earth, waiting to die, and it's what you do here on earth, and might be doing a terrible job paraphrasing, but it's what you do here on earth that actually matters. And it was a very beautiful moment when he said that, but it just showed that, no, I'm not worried about death. I'm worried about how I'm living and how I'm remembered. And he said, you're supposed to go to heaven, ideally, not hell, but you're supposed to go to heaven if you're good, Trump said. I think our country's missing a lot of religion. I think it really was a much better place with religion. Now, he's presumably talking about Christianity, but he said it was almost a guide. Well, it's absolutely a guide. It is the guide, he continued. To a certain extent, it was a guide. You want to be good to people. Without religion, there are no guardrails. I'd love to see us get back to religion, more religion in this country. And, Trump this is, again, the last video that I recorded, I was talking about, the difference is Charlie Kirk, who was approached with a question about being a Democrat and voting Christian. And then we look at the platforms and you can see what they are pushing versus what conservatism pushes. And, a lot of people judge Donald Trump because he has what they call unrepentant sin, things that he's done in his life that he's never repented for. They don't know. These people don't know where he sits with God. It's obvious he's not sitting there quoting Bible verses, which is fine. But they don't know where he is in his personal relationship with God, but they make these assumptions about it. But he has, I know, been surrounded by a lot of evangelical people, and that has a tendency to rub off on people. It's not going to change him overnight. It doesn't change any Christian overnight. It doesn't change anybody who believes in God or who's questioning God or who's considering pursuing God. These are things that happen, Christians living their life in a way befitting of Christians, and I try my hardest to do that. But when you're talking about something as vitriolic as politics, I step outside of it, and then I have to go to God and say, God, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. It's a constant balancing act of trying to improve yourself, engaging in dangerous arenas like politics, but then saying, you know what, I can do this without hating the other side, at least the people voting. And I could do it without hate and do it by exposing the evil that's going on around them. And this is what's happening in Trump's world all the time. And he's coming out of New York politics, a very cutthroat, ruthless. I mean, we know that both in business practice and in his personal life, he probably has a lot of shortcomings, a whole lot of shortcomings, but he's almost 80 years old right now. He has been nearly killed, nearly assassinated. He took a bullet in the ear, bullet to the face, basically. And these things humble men. And his approach, just look at the last debate with Joe Biden. His approach was completely different. He has mellowed. He has, albeit, matured, I would say, in, I guess, in his faith. And I think that he even said it once in an interview that God had his hand on him. For whatever reason, God had his hand on Trump. And it was either a breeze or it was making him subconsciously turn his head, have a bullet miss him by millimeters, and then he continues to run for president of the United States without fear, without concern for the future. With his businesses on the line and his life on the line, he continues to do it. So we're very quick. Christians are very, very quick to make snap judgments on people. A lot of them are, as if we are infallible, and we all say, oh, we're infallible. No, it's not that they say, oh, my sins, but his sins are worse than mine. And the argument that I make about Donald Trump is that, yeah, he's got a lot of sin in his life. So do I. We all do. But who are you to judge on where he sits with God? Who are you to judge about the conversations he has with God at 1 o'clock in the morning when he's sitting up after drinking a dozen Diet Cokes? He doesn't do drugs and he doesn't drink booze. That's more than I can say for a lot of Christians I know. Oh, gracious. So anyway, Donald Trump has made some admissions about faith, and I think the assassination attempt was a big piece of that. Now let's go on and talk really quickly. This is in a very long video today. Let's talk very quickly about the GOP making a pretty clever move here. So the GOP is pushes to link non-citizen voting ban to government funding bill. Essentially what they're saying to the Democrats is, yeah, you can vote against. We're tacking this on. I think it was Mike Lee that did it. But we're going to tack on this voter ID requirement to the spending bill. And if you don't want the voter ID, then you're going to have to explain to people why you're not voting for the government spending bill. So it's forcing them, through their own drugs, essentially. They're adulterating the Democrat drugs and the Republican drugs too, but their drug of spending, that's their drug of choice, is government spending. And they're saying if you want it, you're going to have to take your vitamins too, which means this act, this Safeguard American Voters Voter Eligibility Act, or the SAVE Act, it proposes to amend the National Voter Registration Act, the NVRA, to mandate that states require proof of U.S. citizenship when an individual registers to vote in federal elections. Non-citizens caught voting under the proposal could face fines and up to a year in prison. So this is a stiff penalty for voter fraud, which there should be a stiff penalty for voter fraud. But the Republicans are saying, fine, you want to spend your billions and billions and billions of dollars? We'll give you that spending, but you're also going to vote to require voter ID. That's a very clever move. Elon Musk actually posted about it and said, I think it was something simple. He said, this is great, or this is wonderful, this is perfect. And yeah, it absolutely is. So I like seeing the Republicans play like this. Now, the next step is, how about we just stop the government spending? We need to start moving in a different direction as far as that goes. A little bit at a time, people. I think Trump is going to be able to make a big difference with that, although he shouldn't have a whole lot to say. It's the House. The House is the one who spends all of our money. But nonetheless, I think he can make some headway once he gets into office. So that's all I had to cover for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.